recording. And so our mutual friend Brian, the IRS guy, who everyone knows him as, who he and I have been in. We've never once met. Oh yeah, you got it. Yeah. You sent me one of those. Yeah.
Sure, but
yeah, he and I send texting fights every day. Yeah, and he told me when I first had him on, it was a while ago actually, about you. And the only thing I know, we spoke briefly on the phone, like a couple months ago. And the only thing I know about you is that you were at the Mandalay Bay shooting, and I think was it November 2017.
October 1st.
Stephen Paddock killed 59 people, including himself, and injured
58 and a half.
58, including him.
Yeah.
He injured, I think, 500 with direct fire, and I read just this past weekend, over 800 indirectly. And
sure. Yeah.
That's all I know about it. And for everybody listening, Aaron's going to tell his story, and we're going to talk about it. And as we just spoke before this, just like when I talk about coronavirus, or yesterday we talked about 9/11 conspiracies with some FBI guys, none of this is to disrespect anyone that has passed from these events. He's going to recap his story, and I don't know, maybe we get into conspiracies, maybe not. Regardless, that's not to shit on the grave of anyone who did die. It's a discussion, but it is important to emphasize that, because you never know. You never know who was where, right? I mean, I've had on firefighters who were at ground zero. So even when I do 9/11 conspiracy episodes, there's still I still have to be sincere in knowing, like, hey, I had a guest on there, I think 77, Tony Tedeschi, whose best friend was killed in the rubble. I can't make light of it. But I've now been running my stupid mouth for longer than I should. So how about you introduce yourself, man?
Yeah, my name's Aaron Deveiw. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. I moved here in 1989, originally from Lansing, Michigan. I'm a bartender in Las Vegas. Been bartending for about 34 years. I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded with some friends who are good country western fans, and yeah, we let me go back to what you just said. You can do a podcast all you want to and worry about disrespecting people. As a matter of fact, this is just the opposite. This is to show some respect and some story. I think from a victim who was there, that represents a lot of them that maybe haven't been able to share their story, but would like to and haven't had that opportunity. So I hope I speak on behalf of all of them. Most of them. Mm-hmm. So that was every year we've attended that event. We've always been fortunate enough to get VIP tickets, and the reason why that matters is because I was able to park in a specialty parking lot that's right behind the venue. Most everybody else had to park off site. We've attended the event every year. Jason Aldean obviously was singing at the end, and we were there. That was our third and final night. First two nights were kind of, the weather wasn't the best. It was nice out, but it was kind of windy. So, Sunday, for whatever reason, I told this story once before. Something about that night was just different. It was peaceful, but I had friends. 8 of us took my truck, went down to the concert. Just little things kind of pop up that you would never have paid attention to as much until after it happens. That kind of they have a much more impact and much more meaning. For example, walking into the venue, I've always my family's been very respectful to first responders since 9/11. So we walked in the venue and we talked to a couple of the officers, shook their hand, everything else. And I actually talked to one of them and let him know that, hey, man, there's a lot of naysayers out there right now, but we appreciate what you do. Thank you for everything. And we appreciate you. We're outnumbered voicefully, but not by heart. And we all support you. So don't forget it. It was interesting because he said it was, just thank you for that. We get that once in a while, but it's just nice to know tonight we don't have to worry about that at a venue like this. And that was before the concert had even started. So now we get to the event. Just the concert's going great. Vibes are good. Everybody's having just a great party time, right? So starts to get dark and Jason's singing, and of course everybody's seen probably highlights of what happened after that. Personally, I was different than a lot of other people because I just sat there. I'm like, this is kind of weird. Why is somebody, playing a nasty joke and trying to scare everybody? This is ridiculous. And so I kind of sat there and all, just hadn't quite processed the whole thing. Just seemed odd to me. And then the next thing that happens is the people falling all over the place and blood, coming out of people and stuff like that. And I realized I was mistaken. This is real. This is the real deal. To the point right then, it's like once we start running, we all run, and a couple of girls with us left their purses and just took off. I don't want to. Sorry if I stumble. I'm not a real good speaker
no,
here. So
dude, no, you're fine. Go. You do whatever you want, man.
But so we leave the event from where we were at, and where we were at was a three-story with our railroad cars that are made out to be like a VIP suites. Mm-hmm. And we're in that area where we were supposed to be sitting up top. We ended up showing up late because the two people we took the night before had too much to drink. So we had to find two other people to take their spot, and gladly they did, but we ran late. So where we normally sit, which were on the side seats, was some other people got our spot on the top of the suite, the third floor, top of the building. And so we ended up having to sit somewhere else. Ironically, the lady that sat in two of our seats ended up getting shot. And so just a lot of, coincidences, or, depends what you believe in life and whatever. But later that comes to be just another small little step. Just made the difference of whether you're here or not. Yeah. So anyway, so we left, all ran from the table where we were sitting, and as we were running away from the street, we didn't know where we were at. The process at the time, I can remember thinking, there's 2 or 3 shooters now in the middle because of all the gunshots and stuff. And I'm not a huge. I've never went out and shot guns to play and to have fun and all that stuff, but hearing all the bullets, I just assumed there was a couple of people possibly on the grounds. So we didn't know where the shots were coming from. But most people ran to Las Vegas Boulevard. I think naturally you ran to the direction where you came from, which entrance you came in. So ours was on the opposite side in the back. Of course, that's where my vehicle was too. But as we're running, we run away, and the bullets start coming, and we all duck for cover, and we have a little spot by a little concession stand, serves drinks and whatever. And we get there, and of the 8 of us, there's, I think, 2 had already left earlier in the day because they had to go. So now there's 6. So of the 6, one of them was, she went underneath the bleachers instead of or the steps where we're at, instead of coming with us. So there's 5 of us, and we had to go back to get her. Ended up getting her, came back to where we were trying to duck again, and now that spot's taken. We ended up running farther, about 2/3 of the way to the back, and there's another concession stand probably on the way back. We stopped there, and then the stage lights came on and floodlights, just the music stopped and everything else, and just brightly just open up the whole grounds where people were, the general admission in front of the stage. And it was crazy because when we got down there, it's just such a pivotal point, and just so graphic for me. The hard part is looking back. While we were down, people were running by us. The girls they're on their hands and knees, and we're kind of ducking down over top of them. And people trying to hurt them or anything, but they're running so fast. We're just trying to guide people. It's like, hey, run, but careful of the girls. You're stepping on their fingers and their hands, whatever. So there was a pause in the shooting, and we had heard that as we were running over, and I remember in the back of my head, subconsciously, hey man, if there's a pause like that again, that's our chance to run again. So wait till the shooting stops and we'll go. But I looked back towards the front of the stage and had a glance, and it was just hard to describe, but there were people that were shot all over that area. And the people that were shot, everybody ran and skedaddled out of there in seconds, not a minute or less, maybe 2 minutes for some of them, but there was just piles of people. And what that pile was, it looked like a teepee, and it was really odd because it's somebody who had been shot, one or two people, and the family members and friends and the support system was with them trying to figure out, now what do we do? The shooting's happening, and everybody else has ran from the grounds, and they're still there, not able to get that person out, trying to figure out the injuries, what have you, but they're still in harm's way. So, but looking back, it wasn't so much that bothered me. It was just how many of them there were. With 10,000 people out of that venue and probably a couple hundred people still in there, piled up like that, those little spots all over, it's pretty significant. But anyway, so from that point, we were looking over, trying to figure out where we're going to go next. And there's a gate out the back, but before the gate, there's a big square area of about probably 50 porta potties, and it was all gated in, fenced in, and there was only one way in there. Now, it seemed like a good place to go because you have a bunch of obstacles to hide behind or in or whatever else. But what really freaked me out was this guy could come around that concession in a given second, and or guys, still not knowing. Mm-hmm. And they got guns and we don't have anything. We're, you're kind of helpless. So, but what was worse was going into a one gated area where you have an entrance in and the same exit as the entrance. So you're locked in. Now you're there for good. You're not going anywhere. So, split second decision was just, as we're running towards that, we just, screw it. Let's just go around it, get to the gate. Let's get out of here and get to my truck. So we did. Got to the back, and where the back of the venue is, where I went out, there's a small little, it's a road, like a 2-lane road, but that road is kind of it's hard to explain. It's not a normal travel road. It's kind of an access road, and it gets you to a church. The church obviously being closed, but that parking lot was used for all the Metro vehicles to park. Then there was a dirt lot, and that was all for handicap and some VIPs that had passes to get in there. And then another lot, and that's parallel to the stage, and that's where all the buses were, so the artists could stop in, change, get ready, whatever else, or go into afterwards. So those are the three parking lots. And on the other side of that is a wall, and that wall separated the airport. Las Vegas McCarran Airport was right there. A lot of people jumped that wall and ran to all the way down the runway, all the way across. And imagine what the airport's thinking. I've heard those stories. They're like, hey, we got a bunch of people running out of tarmac. This is, they have every right to be shot.
Absolutely.
For doing what they're doing. It's federal grounds. Yeah. So, but everybody knew something was going on, and everybody's getting a lot of different messages, and planes had to stop flying and whatever have you, because people are all over the place. But that's a whole nother story. But so we ran out that back, and we're out back there. It's just I describe this as a pivotal point for, I think, people that were injured, hurt, or shot, that when we got out the venue, it's like, okay, you felt like you're in less of harm's way, significantly less. So at that point, the first thing you do is, you fall off a hill you do the whole body check, see if anything's been broken or hurt or whatever else. And then there's people that have been shot. The adrenaline had kicked in so much that now that they had a chance to calm down, they're kind of falling in the street and behind the venue as well. So the ones who weren't shot were significant and knocked them down. These people are shot in the arm, leg, or whatever else, and they're back there still able to move, but they're bleeding pretty good and whatever. So we get to the back, and because of all the chaos, there's a lot of emergency vehicles and stuff, public vehicles, whatever, just got everything blocked. And the way to get into the dirt lot where we were at was completely filled up. So we got to the corner of that fence, and it's those utility fence that they wire up and put together, and they're 7, 8, 9 feet or whatever. We got to a corner, and there's a few of us. We didn't know what to do, so we have no way of getting my vehicle unless we take the fence down. But this fence isn't coming down. There's no way. That's kind of what you're thinking. But we got nothing loose but to push that fence, and I just tried that thing because the adrenaline that we had going, that thing came down like nothing. It wasn't about being strong or tough or big or anything like that. It was about the adrenaline and the intensity that was going on drew so much energy that it was just a piece of cake. So we get back there, get in my truck, and as we're driving out, we come out that same spot where we tore the fence down. It was the only way out. There's not too many vehicles moving at this point. It was probably, I don't know how, for some reason I feel like I was the only one that had transportation that was actually to get out of that area. But as soon as we got out, there's a guy on the ground with another guy who's laying there, and he's trying to help him out. I don't know if they're friends or whatever, but everybody's screaming in the truck, and you can imagine complete chaos. But I stopped and looked on the window. Hey man, can I help you out? He's, yeah, can you get him in your truck? I'm like, yeah man, just load him up. I think fight or flight kicks in, and if you want to run out of the venue and run for cover, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not gonna drive over around anybody.
Sure.
At this to get out of there. So I think the natural instinct was not being a hero, was just do whatever needs to be done next. It's throwing him in front of my face. It's not about. I don't think I had that much choice.
Yeah.
People would argue that, but whatever. So we loaded him up, and as we're loading him up, a whole bunch of other people started coming, and they got people they're carrying or holding or whatever else. And at that point, this guy shows up in a wheelbarrow, and he's got a girl laying in a wheelbarrow, and she's looking at me pretty vibrant and peaceful. I mean, maybe a little in shock or whatever else, but she's in a wheelbarrow. I don't know why, but I'm looking at her, and little sweat on her brow and stuff, and I look at her, and he's just talking to her, trying to calm her down, and there's not much change, but I'm thinking I'm doing what I need to do for her while we're loading everybody else up. And he asked me to put her in a truck, and one of the people that was with us, my buddy, comes around, looks at me, looks at her, and then looks at the guy that's with her and says, "Hey man, how long's she not been breathing?" He said, "About 8 minutes. Sorry dude, she's gone." So yeah, sorry, give me a second.
No, you're good.
She ended up being the youngest of the 58. A lot was missing after that. My focus it was complicated. Just kind of changed direction. 50 different directions, probably. Didn't know what to do, but we loaded up, whoever else we could get. As my truck, everybody's in the back. I had a Toyota Tundra. It got shot too, and I'm being told by a guy who ran at my truck so fast, he hit the door of my truck, puts a dent in my truck, and says, "Dude, stop! You got to get more in there." I'm like, "Man, put him in, get him in there. We need to load this up." I'm like, "I'm loaded," and everybody else is yelling. Like, we don't have any more room. We can, stack on top of each other. But I ended up seeing that guy later, and he said while we're having that talk and trying to get more people in the vehicle, and that's when the vehicle got shot. So another ironic deal there. Crazy. But so at that point, we have everybody we have, and we're driving down to the end of that access road, and that at the end of the access road is where all the ambulances were that were trying to get in and couldn't get any farther. They just made triage right there on the side of the road. There's another black truck that was out there. It was commandeered and took a whole bunch of people to the hospital. That's not me. And a lot of people get me confused with that person. Say, hey, yeah, I've seen that. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not that same guy. So I want to make sure we're clear that I'm not trying to portray myself as somebody I'm not. So we get to the end, and having everything that happened with that girl, I'm in a different spot emotionally than everybody else in my vehicle, and they didn't know that at the time. So of course it looks like I could have done a lot of things differently. Questioned about it, not understanding, where I was at, where it happened. But anyway, so we got them to the end of the road, unloaded them, and I'm like, I got to go back. I got to make up for what was just lost. So we big argument in the vehicle about me staying or us staying. And at the time, it was all of us were going to stay. I'm like, I don't care. Take the truck, whatever. I'll stay. You guys go ahead, and I'll catch up with you. I'll get home. And at that point, my girlfriend, she gets a phone call from her daughter. She had left quite a couple hours before, and she's screaming, of course, at the other end, worried about her mom and what's going on, and everybody's trying to process the whole thing. And so at that point, of course, my reaction, my focus changes again. It's like, okay, where's she at? Let's go. I jump back in the truck and we drive to go get her, and she's down the street about a mile. And we get to her, and focus has changed, but still kind of regret not going back. If I'd have known she was a mile down the street and she was safe, I wouldn't have left. But sorry, I'm tapping on a pen.
No, dude, you're fine. You do you.
Yeah. So from there, we just all get home, and the amount of vehicles flying down the street, just unmarked cars, like from everywhere, and they're coming in from Arizona, California, all over the place. It was just completely crazy. During that time, we were running out. We had heard there was 3 shooters from 3 different hotels, and that was just like anything else, man. You got people are taking the information they got, and they're trying to spread it with accuracy. We get the information. Hell, we didn't know what was going on. Then we heard it was 5 shooters, 5 hotels. And then it was, come to find out, that was a shooter from one of the 5 hotels is what they were saying. So I don't know. I don't know about the conspiracy theory. I tell you, the kid that we loaded first, he had 3 bullet wounds within 4-inch diameter, just above his belly button. So, he's alive. The girl in the wheelbarrow, she ended up, I didn't see anything. I didn't see any wounds or nothing, and couldn't figure out what was going on. But come to find out later, to explain both of those, the gentleman, the bullet hit the ground and split in 3 pieces, and that's how he got hit. But the girl got shot through the shoulder and on the side, hit a major artery, hit her spinal cord, went out the back. So I'm not going to see any of the damage there, but so got a lot of explanations. Sir, I just, one of the weirdest things that happened after that was being empty. I tried to find some sort of purpose and figure out, how does life begin? Found an earring and tried to find out who that earring belonged to. Didn't find out who the earring belonged to, but I ended up finding the family of. It ended up being Bailey Schweitzer. Some people say it wasn't her. some of the stories doesn't make sense to other people, and it doesn't matter. So, I mean, it could be questioned all day long, but I believe that's who it was until somebody tells me otherwise. We ended up, my daughter was in town, and we went down, and ironically, it was the third night of the event. Her birthday is the 29th of September. She's supposed to be there, and she made other arrangements. She couldn't make it, but she ended up coming in after that whole deal, and we went down and went to Bailey's funeral in Bakersfield, California, and met a bunch of people, and they all welcomed us and stuff. And I don't want to get into all that, because if they see this, it's kind of disheartening.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. I'm trying to show them respect, and I hope they hear my story. There were some survivors that actually got together, a group of girls that questioned everybody on Facebook. So I have a lot to say to them. Because the rumor has it they went to the family and said I was a fraud.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So we have. You can talk about conspiracy theories all you want to, but this is an opportunity for me to say, hey, I didn't ask for this. Mm-hmm. Don't wish it upon anybody. But there's some girls that raised money, never produced the merchandise on behalf of Route 91, took charity money, said they were something they weren't. And
that's some,
really, dude,
that's some evil shit.
Yeah. And they were so concerned about who they were. Then I changed the whole story when I started talking about all this, but give me a chance after everything has happened for me to tell you that I guarantee you they'll get this podcast and they'll have a lot to say. And that's okay. Karma. Yeah. They'll get what they deserve. But I just hope they do the right thing and learn from their mistakes. And I didn't mention any names. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do that. But it was interesting. Bailey, even though she was gone, indirectly, she saved my life. So I can only thank the family.
Yeah.
And if you hear her story and the family story, she was a vibrant girl, full of life, and just a peaceful, good person. They say the good Lord takes the good ones, and that'd be a good example. But she had a lot. She was doing a lot that night too. So she had a lot of impact on some of us, and if not just me. And so I thank them for that.
Yeah.
But anyways. Change the subject or something, move on.
no, man, that was.
Oh, sorry.
No, dude, that was absolutely incredible. I hope I'm not cutting you off, because I think we have a little bit of delay between the video, so I don't know when you've stopped. But no, it's always very easy for me, right? Because I'm 30. I'm a jackass. I have this podcast where I get to talk about whatever I want, and I can have on you, and the next day I can have on someone else. And it's so sometimes I need to be brought back down to earth, because when I talk about conspiracies or something like a 9/11 conspiracy, and then I have on my friend Tony Tedeschi, who was a firefighter on 9/11, it makes me realize, like, this isn't all some abstract thing that I can just talk about without ever having to touch it in reality. So having you on here and hearing you tell your story, the vibe I kind of get from your side is, you don't care if there's a conspiracy. You don't care about the, is it this or is it that? It's like, what happened to you, and that's all you're concerned with. I mean, okay, for instance, I've told this story 100 trillion times, so anyone on the podcast is probably pulling their hair out. I lost a sibling to suicide in 2014. I've often thought, what if someone ever asked me, do you think it was a suicide, or what if your brother was offed by... And I often think, like, I don't give a shit. Like, the pain's the same. So... No, man, I do appreciate your story. I do appreciate hearing your side from it, because it's... Right, why would you give a shit about a conspiracy? It's like, dude, the dead woman in the wheelbarrow is just the same. Like, the PTSD is just the same. Like, the funeral is just as tragic. the people scamming to get money is just as evil. Like, what does it matter? I mean, it does matter, but
I don't want to lose focus by mentioning the girls. It's kind of like a shameless plug for me to sit there and say, hey, sorry you guys went that route. I don't know why you did it, whatever. But you're right, because at the end of the day, nothing's changed. There's no explanation that makes anything okay. Doesn't bring anybody back. Mm-hmm. Doesn't change the pain. I will say, though, imagine you with your brother, if it wasn't suicide, that was a exclamation point explanation. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Then you would have answers, and you're entitled to those.
Sure.
So for that reason, that doesn't change my position. I'm still here. I didn't lose a loved one. I seen the impact of what had happened, but there's nothing about Paddock. I barely remember his name because I could care less.
Fuck that guy. We'll call him Bob.
Yeah, anything but
anything but his name. Call him Bob.
Anything but respectful. Yeah, he's definitely not normal. No. But anyways, the conspiracy part. I'll tell you, I've heard 33. I think I counted, believe it or not, different theories. I didn't pay attention to them, but I will tell you the one thing that's very significant about those theories. They're also drastically different. It could only have been one of the 33.
Correct.
I'm not that smart.
Yeah. Neither am I.
I'm not going to figure it out. I don't want to spend the energy on that. I had my energy needed to be spent elsewhere, and it was. And I'm proud of that. And I was never a bad guy. I say this, I was never a bad guy before, but it's made me a better person. And I don't wish it upon anybody, and I'm sorry for people who lost someone. But, shit happens in our life. We all have junk. And this will help me to, kind of figure out if whatever's ailing me, it needs to be fixed. I think I've done a good job with all that. So I'm a better person because of her and what's happened. So
yeah, man.
It says 10%. So if we cut off, I'll have to charge, and we'll do it again. We'll continue if you want. So just letting you know.
You said your phone's low.
10, but we'll keep going until it goes off.
Yeah,
so.
let's ride this till the wheels fall off, and then we'll do a part 2.
Yeah, there you go.
It's we have a video delay, so when you're finished talking, your mouth. So if you see me not looking at the camera, it's because it's throwing me for a loop. And my face is doing it too. I'm listening to you talk, and I'm watching my mouth move. The whole thing's weird. So I'm looking off to the side. This is like the patting your head and doing that. I'm like, all right, this is. But
one of those old Japanese movies.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. The bad dubbing. It's the Japanese moving, but it's just like a Southern drawl, and it's like I was there as it's like Bruce Lee talking. Yeah. But yeah, man, I often, me and my brothers say that about our oldest brother. We say, wouldn't wish it on anyone. I wouldn't wish it on Stephen Paddock, Bob. But it did happen to me. And man, has it been the single most instrumental and educational tool of betterment. I don't think I was a bad person before. But man, if it is not just...
Well, look at you now.
Yeah. If it is just not, cleared your mind to, know what is important in this world and what is not. I mean, it's just... And again, I don't wish it on... It's a weird catch-22 because it's the single most beneficial and educational and maturation-inducing thing that's ever happened to me, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. So it's a weird catch-22. But I want to swing back before your battery dies. It is an odd thing what you were saying about going in that night and it was peaceful. I mean, if you read from multiple different testimonies of the day the Titanic sank, they all said that night they're like, this is the cleanest, most smooth ocean they had ever seen. They were writing about it like this is absurd, like this is a once in a lifetime thing. On the morning of September 11th, pilots call it severe clear. It's where there's almost zero not zero, it's impossible, moisture in the air, meaning it's not just clear skies. It's the actual term is severe clear, meaning your vision is limited by the curvature of the earth. There are odd things about days like that where multiple people will say, like, there was something about that day that was just beautiful. And it's such an odd thing because, right, you'd think that there would be some sort of darkness, some dark foreshadowing, but instead, on the days of these massive tragedies, people often report just like a tranquility beforehand, and not even in hindsight, because your brain obviously is now all mixed with emotion. But people do report, like, before it being like, there's something about today that's just beautiful. And to me, it's very, it's curious to hear that. Do you have, I mean, I'm just trying to think, that's, you know,
well,
what would that be?
Yeah. My thought that might be, look, I'm not saying it was or it wasn't. So devil's advocate, I could say, maybe that's our healing mechanism. Sure. Is to say,
it was beautiful.
Hey, if it was ugly and dark and cloudy and everything else, it'd be more fitting and make a better explanation about what happened after that. That's not, that, I guess first thought on that would be, well, gee, it should have been a dark night. Should have been lightning out there. It's been crazy, whatever else. It's kind of like, I don't know. I don't know where to go with that.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, that's the part of the healing process that says I need it to be that way. But I'm gonna tell you, dude, I don't remember anything about that night that I can say negative. I really don't. Not because of the comparison of what happened afterwards, just because the 2 nights before that were windy as hell. One night we're up there and was heading the direction that the barbecue that they were cooking out there and they're selling was blowing in our face. Night before that it was windy and the it had the effect of the speakers and the sound. Yeah. So now Sunday night has neither one of those are happening, and of course the talent of the music's better towards the end of the evening as well. Sure. So that has a lot. It's kind of like a good bottle of wine. If you have a good bottle of wine, I spent $100 on 2 bottles of wine. I had
hell yeah, man.
I had one with some good friends, and it was the best bottle of wine I've ever had. Okay, I had the other bottle of the same brand. I drank it by myself. It wasn't near as It wasn't near as good. Well, it's just the experiment goes with the taste and the senses and everything else. So anyway,
absolutely. No. It's and I have often thought about that. Yeah, is that just a coping mechanism? Does your brain look back at it and gloss over and call it beautiful? But the weird thing is about, I can't remember I think it was April 15th, 1912 when the Titanic sank, which I never thought about before. That was the date I lost my brother. Obviously not 1912, but the reports of the otherworldly calmness are from before the iceberg. Like, they're from people that had, like, sent out telegrams or to other ships, or people that had written in their diaries that were saved before the ship went down. Same thing with 9/11/01. Is there are reports from, like, news reporters and pilots, like, that morning prior to the hijackings of, like, man, today is something special. And to me, that's what is that? Not that you can know the answer, not to throw that on your shoulders, but I don't know. No. It's, I'm someone that was religious for the first 15 years of my life, not religious at all for the next 15, and I'm slowly, kind of involuntarily moving back towards a believing state. I don't know why, I don't know how, I don't control it, and I don't impose it on anyone. But I don't know, maybe let's just, who knows? Is that the sign of being watched over? I don't, and I know everyone that doesn't believe is rolling their eyes, and that's fine. Is that the sign of, like, hey, it's all going to be okay? Is that the sign of, like, is that... I want to say that, I know because of the delay, I'm sorry to interrupt. No.
But I want to say that, what works for you? You know what I mean? Is it a coincidence? Sure. Okay, so what? It can be a coincidence and nobody else cares or whatever else. But if it makes you a better person, it can't be wrong, dude. Yeah. I want to give you examples. Yeah. So my dad was dying of Lou Gehrig's disease, and he fought for 3.5 years. And we had the Mount Charleston here in Las Vegas, and it's about a 40-minute drive from the house. It's not that far, but the day my dad's urn gets delivered to my mother at the house, I decided to take a drive with my brother-in-law up the mountain. We go up the mountain. I'm looking for driftwood, and I want to take a peaceful drive. That's an excuse just to get up and just clear the head and just enjoy the beauty of Mother Nature, right? So we get up there, and we pull over top of the mountain. Near the top, we pull over, and I go down a trail, and I go off the trail. Buddy, I don't know what these signs, and I got lots of them, but I found an urn of a 16-year-old girl in the mountains off a trail, half buried, stuck against a tree. So, coincidence? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But why am I finding it that day?
Why? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No.
Right at that time. There doesn't have to be an explanation, and there doesn't have to be always a religious factor either. I don't know where people are at in lives, and I'm not throwing it on them either.
Sure.
But some of those things, again, healing mechanism, right? Coping skills. That's necessary for me to believe, look, my dad just died, and I want to respect and remember him and all that stuff. It makes for a great story.
Mm-hmm. And
it works.
I think the line you said earlier is beautiful. If it makes you a better person, it can't be wrong. And I'm as someone that was pre-med in college, I got into pharmacy school and medical school. I did research. I was a militant atheist for a long time, and the one thing I truly hated was when people tried to push their beliefs on me. So for anybody listening, this is in no way trying to push anything on anyone. But who knows? Maybe you're just an atheist and you view it as just physics and coincidence, and well, cool. Then there's some beauty in that. Just like, hey, what a coincidence! You found X, Y, and Z. You know, but I do. Yeah, who cares? If it makes you a better person, who cares? If you truly, it's like old firing squads. They used to, it'd be like 6 shooters with 5 bullets and 1 blank. No one knew who had the blank, and therefore there was a chance you had the blank, and thus your conscience was clean that you didn't have to execute the prisoner. If you sleep better at night, who cares? If it makes you a better person, who cares? But yeah, man, who cares? I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. And no one can take it away from you. No one can disprove it. No one can say that wasn't God, that wasn't Mother Nature. No one can take it from you.
Only you can. Only you can let that go and deny it. And a lot of times I think we all get those experiences, and we don't see them necessarily because we're not ready to see them for whatever reason. So, can't be wrong.
Yeah. Hey, what's your phone at? I want to make sure we don't get cut off.
I am at very close.
All right. Well,
I'm at 2%.
Okay. Well, hey, how about we wrap it up instead of it wrapping us up? It's let's take control.
I'm not done yet, so we got to do this again.
Well, absolutely. No, it's what I said to you earlier. As I said, every guest doesn't have to be a one and done thing. I would absolutely love to do a part 2. Let's make sure your phone's charged up, or iPad, or whatever you're using. And Aaron, that was a beautiful talk, man. Thank you for sharing that. I know that was difficult. I've had people share stories on this, namely Tony Tedeschi, telling the story about 9/11. He was still tearing up 19 years later. Hey, man, I appreciate it. And like Tony, you apologize. There's absolutely no reason to apologize. Your apology is not accepted here. It's a beautiful thing that you told that story, and thank you for opening up and making yourself vulnerable and telling that story. And thanks for coming on my podcast, man. I know I'm in a weird hoodie, and we're doing this on FaceTime. But
let me end this with telling you that I think we're at our best when we're the most vulnerable.
Beautiful.
I think that's
absolutely. When the guard's down, you have to be. Yep. Yeah. When the guard's down, you just have to be your best person. It's when both people are out of ammo, you got to be like, well, we can't kill each other, so we might as well talk. It's yeah, right. It's who knows, man. But Aaron, let's wrap this one up, man. I'll text you, and we'll put together a part 2.
Sounds good, my friend.
All right, thank you. Dog. God bless, man. Thanks for coming on here, and I'll text you when it's up, and let's do another one.
Yeah, God bless.